Hey everybody, this is Tell True Sports Radio. I'm your host Ron Fitch, and I want to tell you there were upsets, bad losses, everything. It was just a mess. It was great games. Well, one of the best games was Baltimore and Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was up 24 to 24 to 14, 24 to 14, third quarter, and this is where the Ravens kind of offense got going immediately. They had a laser lightning quick drive down the field where Jackson throws the pass to Likely. That's not the end of their hookup. But then the Bengals have a nice drive. They drive down the field, Chase Brown, they're moving the ball, they're running the ball, they're passing it. The tight end's playing well. And then Chase Brown ends up finishing the drive off with a touchdown. And then Baltimore has a bad break where their kick returner drops the ball at the 3, and they have to drive 97 yards. No problem. They go right down the field like a hot knife through butter. And then Lamar Jackson finds Colonar for a 2-yard touchdown. And then now, with 9:05 left, the Bengals want to drive and take up a lot of clock. They didn't take up any clock because Jamar Chase had a great game. Called a pass to the flat, took off 70 yards, running past everyone. 38-28. Okay, if the Bengals get a stop here, they'll probably win the game. Not even close. Easily, Baltimore went down the field. And then on third down, second and goal, Lamar Jackson was pressure. I thought it was going to be a long sack. They got to settle for a field goal. I thought he threw the ball up for grabs, but he didn't. And it was caught by Isaiah Likely. I mean, he was running. It was one of the great plays. He's running at Browns, throws the ball up in the air, up for grabs. And Isaiah Likely was the tallest guy. He saw it. He was able to grab it at the high point and score. Now, oh, man. Cincinnati recovers from that. Drives down the field, and Joe Burrow throws a bad interception, a bad one. And then now at 38-35, the Bengals have to hold. I'm thinking this game is over. Baltimore's going to drive down the field. They drove down the field, but they were able to somehow, some way, they were able to hold Baltimore to a field goal. And I'm like, oh, it's tie score. Can the Bengals do anything? And the Bengals can do nothing. This is Joe Burrow's time. 135 left. All you did is a field goal. Take up the clock. You're Joe Cooley did nothing. They drove nowhere. So in overtime, Baltimore gets the ball. Oh, they're going to score. They're driving, and all of a sudden, they fumble. And Lamar Jackson gets sacked. He gets fumbled in Cincinnati territory. So now all Cincinnati has to do to get a really good opportunity for a field goal. They're the Baltimore 38, but you want to get a first down or two to make it an easy kick. Joe Burrow and that offense couldn't even do that. And he missed. I knew he missed the kick. He missed the kick, and here comes Baltimore. And they did a good job on Derrick Henry, but you're a little tired. You've been gashed all day long. Now you smartly give the ball Derrick Henry, 51-yard run, and then they kick the field goal, and that's game. That was a great game. It's Baltimore's. Now it's Baltimore division to win. They're going to be the division winner. I think they'll clinch first week of December with Cincinnati 1-4 and Cleveland just nowhere. Cincinnati's a mess. And Pittsburgh, I told you, they're Jerry Quarry. They're in the middle of nowhere. They're in the middle, not good enough for a great pick and not good enough to really have any significance when it comes to making a playoff run. They could possibly sneak in the wild card because of how bad the teams that were supposed to be good are. They'll get in, they'll get crushed, and goodbye. And that's and they lost to the Cowboys, and I was surprised the Cowboys didn't blow them out because the Cowboys are up and down the field. Cowboys made some of the dumbest mistakes. Then they're behind, have to come all the way down, and it's a nice try by Dak to have the game-winning score, but jeez, Dak Prescott threw for 352 yards, If it had went to overtime, Dak Prescott could have threw for 500 yards. Uh, he was 2 touchdowns, 2 bad interceptions, a sack, strip fumble. He only had 90.6 rating, but he was up and down the field because the Pittsburgh defense is very overrated, and they're Civ and Minka Fitzpatrick. Is he done? I haven't heard from him making any plays in a whole year and a half, maybe. Maybe it could be the end, or maybe he'll just come out of nowhere and start playing better. But he hasn't made any significant plays. And the Cowboys took advantage of that. And they got a win they needed. But as far as the AFC, Buffalo, I rooted for him because I love Jeffrey Miller, the guy that comes on my show. And I wanted to see him win. But you talk about poor clock management. Man, the game is tied at 20. The Bills, this is where the Bills probably lost the game. 2nd and 10 at the Houston 14. Caesar Stroud got stripped, and the Bills have the ball with a chance to put the game away. And they couldn't move the ball from the 14. Had to settle for a tie. Houston's driving down the field. I'm thinking they're going to win, but they got stuffed. Now they kick the ball and pin the Bills back. The Bills have the ball at the 3-yard line with 32 seconds left. You gotta make sure you get a first down because the Titans have 3 timeouts. You got to move the ball. The Buffalo ran some of the poorest plays, and they had to punt. Fairbairn did a good job punting the ball, but still, Houston had enough time with 3 timeouts to driving up down the field. Not down the field. They're able to get 5 yards, and Fairbairn from Houston kicks the game-winning field goal. It was Sam Martin who punted, and Robert Woods returned it 13 yards. They got 5 more yards on a pass. And then Fairbairn was a hero, nailing that sucker right down the middle, 59 yards, and the Texans win. The Buffalo lose a bad loss because the Jets had lost to the Vikings in London. And Aaron Rodgers didn't play as good, threw a bad interception. That's my guy. Oh, that's my guy, Aaron Rodgers. He didn't play good. But the Jets, the good news is the Jets are still in it because their division stinks. Miami's not going nowhere without their quarterback. New England's terrible. It's all about the Jets and Bills. The Jets and Bills head-to-head is going to decide the division. Whoever can get who's getting Devontae Adams? Pittsburgh needs him bad to at least get into the wild card game because they're going to lose to the Raiders this week. So they'll be behind the 8 ball when the wild card comes. To get in the wild card, they probably have to get him. Devontae Adams goes to the Jets. That helps. I don't think they're beating Buffalo or Kansas City. I mean, not Kansas City or Baltimore, but they could win the division with Devontae Adams. They need another receiver. Garrett Wilson, I need to see more out of him. But, that was just – the Jets made a comeback. They had a chance to go down the field and score. They didn't. Aaron Rodgers was 29 of 54, 53%. 3 interceptions, 2 TDs. Come on now. And he's older, but I believe in him that he's still good. So we'll see. It's a lot of football to be played. Now, if I were to say the number 1 contenders in the AFC, it's Houston, Baltimore, and Kansas City. And hopefuls are the Jets and Buffalo. In the wild card zone is Pittsburgh, Denver, the Raiders, Jets. Buffalo are going to be fighting for division. One of them will be the wild card. All Vegas has – now Vegas is more inconsistent than Pittsburgh. Denver's probably – they're starting to come on. So I think they're going to be a top wild card. The Chargers are injured. The Raiders are inconsistent. The Jets aren't playing good. Ugh. The cream de la cream in the AFC is Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City. And I just – from what I see, it's going to be Baltimore and Kansas City. Kansas City better keep winning because you're not going to Baltimore this year and win the AFC championship. You're going to need to be home against Baltimore and try to beat them again, which will be very difficult because now that they have Henry running, Lamar Jackson is unorthodox. Because I see him, I'm like, you can't win like that. He's a run first, pass second, really good throwing quarter. He's a playmaker, but it's a mixture. He like the the quarterback of Washington. He's a great thrower. He'll run when he has to, but he's a great thrower. Lamar Jackson is an improved thrower, but he still runs. So I don't know if he can't get hurt. Then it's going to be Kansas City, the Texans. They're the only three teams that are going to be relevant. I'll dabble in the wild card teams, but because I have a short time to talk about different sports, I have to talk about the top teams, and then the middle of the road I might dabble in if they do something special. But you know that's better. In the AFC, Minnesota's on fire. They're 5-0. Washington is Jaden Daniels is just on fire, playing well. They'll get beat by Baltimore this week. They'll come crashing to earth this week. And then Atlanta's playing good. They've recovered from that terrible loss against Pittsburgh, and they've gone 3-2 now. Detroit is better. They played great Thursday night. Chicago is a surprise team. I don't know if they'll make the wild card. Tampa is okay. Dallas has a lot of talent, but they underachieved. They should have won that game big. Green Bay, they beat the Rams, but the quarterback play, I gotta see more out of my quarterback play here because Jordan Love threw the worst interception I've ever seen, and they were able to survive against a Ram team that's hurting and they're not quite there yet. Dallas and Green Bay could actually be better. These are two teams not in the playoff race yet, but Dallas and Green Bay will be in the playoffs. I expect more out of Philadelphia. New Orleans and Arizona's coming on. Arizona could make a run. The Giants have a nice win. Arizona, before I get into my baseball segment, I'm going to end this off with Arizona being the 49ers 24-23. I believe that their kicker got hurt, so the Niners had to keep going for it. They probably would score more points, but that comeback was tough. Kyler Murray was fantastic. And I'm stay on Kyler Murray just from not being mature, but he looks mature this year. 19 of 30, 195 yards, 83 yards rushing. And he played good, played really good. San Francisco, they had about 5 or 6 chances, 5 or 6 years of just almost getting to the Super Bowl. And they should have won. Almost winning a championship because they've been to a couple Super Bowls and lost. And blowing that 10-point lead in the Super Bowl, trying to come back yet again. It's harder now. When you have a chance to win, you got to win. I'm still mad at when Pittsburgh had an opportunity with the Ben and Bryant and Bell and Brown and lost to one of the worst losses of franchise history to Jacksonville. And that was their chance. And then the other chance was when Brown got hurt in a concussion against the Bengals. And that was it. No more. Now it's mediocrity. And now you got to hope you hit a home run in the draft. And you hit a home run in free agency. You get the right pieces. You get the right quarterback because the Steelers were in that nowhere zone until Ben came, changed the whole complexion of the franchise. And is Purdy the guy? He looks the part, but it's just this loss yesterday. The Cardinals might get him again. And is San Francisco going to make the playoffs? They better be thankful Seattle lost to the Giants. They're a game behind. It's going to be a wild, wacky NFL season because other than the 3 top teams in the AFC and Minnesota, Washington's young. I don't know how long this will last. I think they're going to get beat by Baltimore. But the 4 best teams are Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, and Minnesota. And until someone rises up to that level. Those are the teams I'm going to be really focused on. Wow, what a game between the Mets and Phillies. The first game, the Mets took from the Phillies just a heart. Oh, they came back late like they've done all series. And in this game, they took a 3-0 lead on Pete Alonso's homer. Vientos hit a 2-run homer. They're up 3-zip. All right, but then Bryce Harper and Castellanos homers, and then they get the Philly that take the tie score. Phillies take the lead, and the crowd's going crazy. They take a 2-run lead on Vientos's error, but then Vientos comes up after Lindor, who's been the MVP of this season, this postseason for the Mets, gets a single because he's a switch hitter and he's hitting both ways really good. And then Brahm throws the pitch to Vientos, who homers. And now it's 6-6. And now I'm thinking, no, the Mets are going to be impossible to beat. This team, not only are they going to win this game, they could go full, like Moses Malone said years ago. They could just sweep their way to. I'm thinking all these thoughts. But then the Phillies got off the deck after getting crushed and getting that home run hit to tie the score when they thought they had the game won tonight, and they get a double to win the game. Very impressive style. Harper is Harper. Harper is going to get them home runs. And Hoffman ended up being the winner. Miguel loser. But you're going to Queens. And it's going to be hard to beat the Mets there. But the Phillies are tough-minded. You know, they could conceivably win a game in Citi Field, but the Mets could sweep them there. Even if it's a split, I think the Mets could beat them in 5. I just believe the Mets are going to win this series somehow, some way, whether it's 3 or they go back to Philly and take care of business in Philly. Now, as far as the Dodgers are concerned, the Padres destroyed them after throwing away game 1, and they threw away game 1, pitching to Ohtani, and then the error that was committed in the 9th inning. That was just a bad move by the Padres. They blew that game. They were sloppy in game 1, but game 2, they were a lot better. Machado made the error in game 1, which he doesn't make. He's a good fielder, and that gave the Dodgers an extra run. They won. And not so much this game. The Padres destroyed them. Tatis got the ball rolling. A great catch by Profar. Xander Bogaerts is having a really good series so far. I'm thinking, Hugh Darvish went 7, and he was electrifying. He was on my Cubs. I did not want to let him go. They traded him to the Padres for nothing. I don't even know the return they got. Just gave him away in a trade. And I knew he was going to be. I loved him. I did not want him. I want him to stay a Cub, but anyway, he's a Padre, doing well. And Profar made a great catch and was taunting the crowd. And the Padres, they're obsessed with the Dodgers. They want to beat the Dodgers more than winning the next round and winning the World Series. It means everything to them. So the Padres are different from the Mets. The Mets, if they lose a game here, they can go to Philly and win. The Padres are going to put all the eggs in this basket at home. We're going to beat the Dodgers. We're going to celebrate. We're going to scream, beat LA, beat LA, beat LA. And then if the Dodgers, which I do have the Padres winning these games, but if the Dodgers are able to decide to really hit the ball, which they slump when the postseason comes. Even Mookie Betts has got that infection now. 0 for 10 his last at bat. He should have had a homer. That was robbed. Great play by Profar, but they're not hitting. Ohtani had a good game yesterday. I mean, the day before. Not so much today, yesterday. The Padres have to win those 2 games in San Diego, because psychologically and mentally, if they have to go back to LA, the LA crowd is going to want blood. And I think the Dodgers will relax knowing they survived. They were supposed to be eliminated in San Diego. The Dodgers will hit in Game 5. If it goes to 5, the Padres are in trouble. But I expect the Padres to go out there and just go crazy and hit and pitch. They have a nice bullpen. They're rested because of Hugh Darvish. I just expect them. I don't like the without Kershaw, without all the pitchers the Dodgers had at the beginning of the year. They just had a key injury. It was Muncy one time. Last year it was I believe it was Bueller. There's always a key injury that just ruins the Dodgers when it comes to these games. At game 3 and 4, where you go, where you going? Game 3 and 4, you have to hope now. You have to hope. Well, Walker Buehler's playing. You have to hope you get the Walker Buehler of 2 years ago. Michael King's a good pitcher for San Diego. 13-9, under 3. Yeah. That slightly favors the Padres. So they should win game 3. And then game 4 is who they don't have the pitcher for that yet. But game 3 is pivotal. If the Dodgers win game 3, they know they're going home, even if they lose 4. If they lose game 3, more pressure, especially if you get behind early and they get going and they're having a good time and the crowd is cheering and you're striking out and striking out and striking out. And it's inning 6th, inning 7th, you got to make a comeback. All the pressure, just like that last time they had to play in San Diego, and they just didn't get it done. And San Diego's looking to do the same thing. I expect the San Diego and the Mets to play and the Mets to beat up on San Diego because San Diego's main mission is to beat the Dodgers. After that, maybe we get a game or two in the next round, whatever. The Mets want to get to the World Series and win it. And the owner, Steve Cohen, wants that badly. And they're set up to really go there. And then when it comes to American League, I'll tell you, the team that looked the best was the Cleveland. I call them the Guardians. I usually call them the Indians, but just for political correctness sake, the Guardians, they destroyed the Tigers. And they kind of had that mentality like, oh, I see how hype you guys are. You're coming to Cleveland now. This game coming up after my podcast is going to be interesting because the Tigers have their guy. Their ace is going today. And I want to see if that makes a difference. Screwball. Tariq Screwball. He is really good against Michael Boyd, who is Matthew Boyd, who was 2-2 this year. We're going to see how good that works. This favors the Tigers. They better tie the series up. And the Yankees had a kind of a shabby kind of win. Cole was spotty. They get the go-ahead run on a controversial call because of Steele. It looked like he was out, but it was really close. And then they get a RBI single on that, and then they just other than it to me, I would say Cleveland and the Mets look the best out of every team in the major league. We'll see how that plays out. All right, college football. As embarrassed as I was with Rutgers losing the way they did, dropping a key touchdown pass against Nebraska, the Alabama loss was the worst one of the year, probably losing to Vanderbilt 40-35. Alabama's defense is putrid. Defense has given up 67 points in 6 quarters. That's insane. And they just imploded. Every time they needed a stop, they didn't get it. And the Vanderbilt went down. And then when Alabama did have a chance to make a comeback, there was one because Milroe was solid. Milroe was good. He was 18-24, 310 yards, just one interception TD. but they didn't run it well. Vanderbilt's defense stopped them, but they couldn't stop Pavia. He had 57 yards rushing and 250 yards passing, 52 yards passing, and two TDs. And he looked unstoppable. And then when the fourth quarter came, that was the key for Alabama because Alabama got close. It was 33 to 28. And it was 9:46 left in the fourth quarter, and Alabama could drive there. They have Vandy 39-yard line. And they're moving in to try to take the lead and get a hold of the game. And Milroe gets sacked and fumbled. And now your defense has the get you off his back. No way in the world that's happened. Vanderbilt were right down the field and scored. But then Alabama does score with 2:46 left, but Vanderbilt runs the clock out. That was game. And that was an embarrassing loss. I'm surprised they dropped down to 7. I just dropped them down lower. And the problem that's going to hurt Alabama is I'm looking at Vanderbilt's schedule. I see one win the rest of the way. They don't have a prayer against Kentucky. At Kentucky, that's a blowout because they'll be still celebrating Alabama. So they're going to get blown out. At 7:45 in Kentucky, that's a beatdown. They'll beat Ball State. They'll get destroyed by Texas. They'll get beat by Auburn. They'll lose at home to South Carolina. They'll lose at LSU. They'll lose against Tennessee. They're going to run the table when it comes to losing, except for Ball State. And that's going to really hurt. Now, if that, like, Arkansas beats Tennessee, Arkansas will win their share games. They might go to bowl. So Tennessee can hold their hat on that. And okay, Arkansas's pretty good. Vanderbilt, let's be serious here. Vanderbilt is no good. They got beat by Georgia State. Now they play good against Missouri, but Missouri got annihilated by Texas A&M, who's coming. Texas A&M has found themselves. So I will, and Georgia struggles Auburn, but Georgia is further along than Alabama. I thought Georgia was going to beat Alabama. I picked them. Right this moment, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, who's really playing good. I don't trust Miami. They had to come through had to have a miracle to beat California unranked, and they barely beat Virginia Tech at home. I don't trust Alabama. I don't trust Tennessee. Mississippi is a huge disappointment with that loss against Kentucky at home. That was my team. I was picking to go really far. It was Ole Miss. Oklahoma's getting better. Oklahoma Oklahoma and Texas A&M are getting better. Do they play each other? Let me see. No, they don't. Texas A&M plays Texas. That was the best rivalry years ago. They're renewing it. I love it. At College Station. Must-see TV. But Ohio State, it was barbecue chicken against Iowa. They're playing Oregon this week. That's going to say a lot about both teams. I'm looking forward to seeing Ohio State and Oregon. If they don't win in Oregon, you're okay because it's a 12-team playoff. And if Alabama could make it. Now, I'm going to look at Alabama's schedule. Let me see. They're going to really beat up on South Carolina because they're going to be upset. They should lose against Tennessee at Tennessee, but that's a toss-up because Tennessee I don't trust either. Missouri at home, they'll probably get by. They're losing to LSU, and they're losing to Oklahoma. They're losing 2 more games, possibly 3 more games at least. So they might not make the playoffs because I'm guaranteeing an LSU loss and guaranteeing an Oklahoma loss. Tennessee, it's a toss-up. Favor Tennessee a little more, so they'll probably have 4 losses on their resume, and they'll be looking on the outside, trying to get in. I don't think they're going to make it. Their defense is putrid. I love Milroe and their offense. They have to run the ball a little better. Other than that, but Texas is playing Oklahoma. That's going to say a lot about who is positioned for number 1 through 4 seeding.